Welcome back, everyone, to After the Sermon and Other Candid Conversations. I am your host, Elder D. I want to say thank you to all of our friends and followers for liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing. Please continue to do so. And we want you to not only look at the reels, but please be diligent in actually listening to the episodes. We are diligently working to come to video, so please be patient with us. And let me say welcome to my co-host, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. You?
I'm all right. And the Right Reverend Doctor. Hey, Bishop.
How you doing?
I'm all right. So we are in February in a context of talking about reclaiming our beautiful blackness and our somebodyness, as Dr. King would say. Let's jump in.
It's been, I said, and I've been saying when we come to Black History Month at Living Word, there's a power in remembering that fuels resiliency as a community. In the same token, it's very difficult, and I was talking about the pushback I get, usually the most severe. Some of our white sisters and brothers may be uncomfortable. Usually they're okay. You get one or two that leave every year. But the most pushback that I get is from African Americans. And they will come and say to me, what you're saying is factual, but the next phrase is this, but you're making the white folk uncomfortable. And we talked about the house Negro mentality of making sure whites are okay to your own detriment. And one of the things that I want to normalize, that God doesn't have a problem with our blackness. And I understand, and we're using that as a cultural marker, because people are not literally black or white. That's not even a real thing, right? Really, people are people of color. When God made Adam and Eve, he gave them pigmentation. You have, so it's color gradations. And literally, Adam and Eve, the number one pigment, or the majority of the pigmentation, is a pigment called melanin. And it's a brown pigment. So if God made everything good in the garden, Adam and Eve were people of color. It's the only way you can get very dark people and get very light people. And science bears that out for us. Now, my point that I'm making, we were a people of the African diaspora before slavery. Mm-hmm. Kings, queens, architects of civilization. I don't want to lose the slavery narrative and what God did for us, but my story and our story is broader than any one episode or moment historically. Mm-hmm. And I think my heart for our community and for our listeners is to stop letting one small segment of society set the conversation, change the conversation, tell us who we are, what we can talk about it, or even how we should talk about it.
One thing, I'm an educator with the local school district, and we have a scholar in our district by the name of Dr. Susan Goodwin, who runs the Rochester Teacher Center, and in the last 10 years or so, I've taken numerous workshops with her. And one thing she always instructs us on is never beginning our story with enslavement.
Yes.
Our story doesn't begin there.
It doesn't begin there. And isn't it interesting when I talk about trying to control the narrative or trying to talk about how we talk about our own experiences? Let's pause there for a moment. Why should somebody outside of the community dictate the terms for how we talk about and celebrate our own experiences? And often in Christianity, we allow white brothers and sisters to set the terms for how we talk about our experience as Christians. And nobody seems to have a problem with that. Well, a race scholar who's also a bishop has a problem with that. You are invited to the conversation, but you don't set the terms of the conversation. And you don't get to tell me what parts are appropriate or inappropriate for me to talk about my experience. You don't get to define Christianity for all people, all time, and all places. You are allowed a perspective. You are allowed to hold me accountable for something that is not biblical. But your interpretation is not the interpretation. Your perspective is not the perspective. And I have to say this because this is important. Most Christians who have a high view of Scripture ground their teaching and preaching in biblical principles. The problem is all biblical interpretation is not created equal. People can impose on the text things that are not in the text so that the text aligns with their cultural agreements. We saw that with slavery. Genesis 9, the whole curse of Ham, supposedly comes out of that text. That whole text had nothing to do with blackness. Mm-hmm. Now, today, we know that the name Ham probably don't mean black, probably don't mean burnt face, probably don't mean hot. But back in the 1700s, you had these Puritans and other slaveholders preaching, see, he had a burnt face, so that means he was black. God was condemning blackness. And for off to the races for 250 years, God don't like black people. God made black people slaves. Well, how could God make the people of color slaves if all people were people of color? Just different pigmentation. And really what you see, the divisions, if you go back to Genesis 10, God actually created culture and ethnicity at the Tower of Babel when he split the people up. And usually our divisions are tied to language. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm using that for a reason. You come back, all our problems of not being unified is because we're using the same words, but we're not speaking the same language. And so that's why you'll hear me say, how are you using race? Right. How are you using racism? Which slavery are we talking about? Because people will use the same word, but not define it in the way that you're defining it and put in your mouth something that you never said.
That's true.
Yeah. So as we're in this time of season, I don't know, is it Find It For Me, Wypij? I think it's Psalm 63 or 64. Ethiopia shall lift up her hands to thee. We really, and you see I'm doing this thing around education. One of the things in my work, you know, I human development, educational context, race scholar. One of the things that I found in my work is that education, and I didn't even realize this as a black person because, you know, I was going to go to Morehouse. I ended up going to Nazareth College, which is a predominantly white school, and I was grateful for it. You know, there's the whole debate whether black people should go to historically black college or universities. I know now today God put me in a white context because I needed to understand the white cultural mind. I didn't get a chance to talk about this. My mentor was Dr. Kay Valentine. I didn't know it. She was, at the time when I was first an undergraduate, she was married to Paul, who's also an educator. She was at NAS. He was at U of R, music, Ph.D. He became a vice president. So I went into sociology under Kay, and as a graduate, I informally served under Paul because he was about diversity, equity, inclusion. It was Kay Valentine. And one of the things that's so powerful for me, in my educational career, God has used both blacks and whites significantly. Kay was the one who put into my hand two books, The Philadelphia Negro and The Souls of Black Folk, both written by W.E.B. Du Bois. She put them in my hand. They were not for a course that I was taking with Kay.
Right.
She put them in my hand. Mm-hmm. She said, William, you need these in your life. As you well know, I'm a Du Bois scholar. Changed my trajectory on life. Put me on the road to understand race and the contributions of black folk. My other book, text, that was seminal to me, that we still teach to this day, Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. So when people talk about foundational books that I teach for all times, when we talk about race, especially in my intro course, Introduction to African-American Studies, Miseducation of the Negro, Souls of Black Folk. Now, Philadelphia Negro I use for upper division courses to talk about ethnographic studies and of those nature. This idea that Arturo Schomburg would give us, the Negro digs up his past. You got to resurrect your history before you can resurrect your place in life. And too many of us are walking around and we don't know what blackness is, what blackness does. And if you don't know what blackness is, what blackness does, where blackness came from, you can never have a correct understanding of what blackness should be.
Right.
And so my part in the story is in my generation, God has blessed me to be strong enough, tough enough, and not care enough to speak truth, because we need to be educated. And I'm not going to be controlled, and I'm not going to be co-opted. I'm going to speak my truth, and I'm going to try to do it in love. I don't always get it perfect, but I'm striving to be loving. I'm not mad with anybody. I don't want to be disunified to anybody, but I'm not going to be marginalized, and I'm not going to use the word I told you not to be used, and I'm not going to be made to be something that God has not called me to be. All right? There's a term I'm going to use on Patreon. It's an academic term, and I'm going to use it academically from Sean Harper's book, and so I can locate it for people accurately. I'm not going to use it today, but we're going to come back. This is the word I want to use. How we take people who are qualified and treat them as if they're not. All right? We're going to look at that word. It's a process. And it's not
very interested in what this is about.
And it's not minoritization either.
I know the word.
You found the scripture, Wypij?
I sure did. Oh, where am I? So that's going to be Psalm 68, 31.
Okay.
Princes shall come out of Egypt.
Yes.
Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God.
Now, this whole idea that God cursed blackness and hated blackness is not biblical. And it's been around. And it's even in the church today when we make caricatures out of black worship. See the phraseology I'm using there. We make caricatures out of black worship.
What do you mean by that?
We make it cartoonish and buffoonish, and it's entertainment, and we don't take it seriously. It's a joke. We make caricatures out of it, grotesque figures for our amusement. And that's cultural appropriation. When you don't take seriously that this is a different culture that means something to somebody. And if I don't want no part of it, don't play with it. But if you're going to be a part of it, learn and understand and come with knowledge, right? So white students who take video trips, not video trips, but field trips to the black church. Let's go over here and see what they're doing today. We whispering, it's not, I'm coming to learn, I'm coming to appreciate. And then you have some people who are superior. They come to look down on you and to judge. They didn't come to truly be engaged. They didn't even open themselves up to the experience because they don't really believe God is there. God comes to my church. There's no way God can be at your church because it doesn't look like, it doesn't feel like my church. Then there's another danger that I want to talk about. Some of my colleagues, they pastor and they tend to be white males, and they think because they have some token people of color on their boards and ask them for their ideas once a month and have a Indigenous Day that they're doing multicultural church. It's only multicultural when everybody's voice is heard and everybody's culture is represented. And that don't mean because you hung a flag in the church, my culture is represented. It has to be represented in some meaningful way. One of the things that has been good and difficult at this church, we did bring our white members in a meaningful way, and we didn't understand what we were doing because that's just hospitality is inbred in the African-American community. It was our hospitality. Well, just bring it in. We love on people. And guess what we found out? Love without education ain't enough. You better do some cultural education. And this is going to be powerful. Let's talk about this. When white people show up, their culture is going to take over unless you intentionally don't allow it to. Where white people are, their culture becomes predominant, and if they can't make their culture predominant, they leave. So in this way, white culture is parasitic. It feeds on the host until it can take over. And if you are uncritically bringing whiteness into spaces of color, you're going to have intense fights or you're going to become white culturized.
Say that again.
If you bring white culture into spaces of color uncritically, you're going to be white culturized or you're going to have intense conflict. We found that out by accident. So when you're merging white culture with another culture, you have to be intentional to have this conversation. White culture is parasitic. If we bring white culture in, it will subsume everything, and we will lose our identity as a community of color. So you'll hear me say, while we're polycultural, we have an Africana Pentecostal ethos. That's not all we are, but that intentionally informs what we do. And people have to hear Bishop say, we're going to sing hymns, and we're going to sing 711s, and we're going to sing some CCM. But we're not going to forget that we were formed with an Africana Pentecostal ethos at the core of who we are. And yes, we're still polyculture. All cultures are welcome. We have Indigenous People Day. We have Hispanic Heritage Month, Latinx Heritage Month. We have Women's History. But you have a black pastor who is black, reared in the black church, open and inclusive, but we're not going to lose that Africana Pentecostal ethos that informs us. We're going to sing a 7-11. And if don't nobody else sing it, Bishop going to sing it, I got a feeling everything going to be all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Didn't I tell you it's going to be all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. The Bible told me, you know what's coming. I think you got it by now.
I have a question. I have a question, and it keeps racking in my mind. You're telling me before slavery as we know it, like the context of what we're talking about, people... How if there's a whole bunch of Christians and then they start saying black people aren't actually humans or whatever it is, no one thought that to be odd?
Of course they did. So think about it. To your point, there's always the whole abolitionist movement, which we have to give a lot of credit to our Quaker brothers and sisters who said this were wrong, right? There were people, Methodist preachers. One of the things that I didn't get a chance to talk about, there's called The Liberating Spirit. There's a book came out in 2010, something about the liberating spirit. Dr. Estrelda Alexander, phenomenal scholar, is talking about people trying to say Pentecostals are otherworldly. She said black Pentecostals may be conservative, but they've always been about liberation and social justice. My point is they may not be the major voice, but there were people there saying this is not right. That's how we got here today. But the majority voice or the most powerful voice was the pro-slavery voice that used religion in its service. Rather, so if you're priestly, you go along to get along. If you're prophetic, you rock the boat. And you need to understand those two dynamics in the church. Priestly churches are inwardly focused. Oh, God will do it. We're going to stay here and pray. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Work it out, Jesus. The prophet like, yo, I'm going outside to tell them people about themselves because God ain't down for this. You wrong. This the devil. I said it's the devil. So I'm playing with that, but that's these tensions. So to your point, God never leaves himself without a witness. But guess what the majority of the people do?
Go along.
They crowd followers. Man. And I'm trying to wake somebody from their slumber and be like, yo, you with the wrong crowd. I know they the it crowd. I know they the happening crowd. But they also crowding you down to hell.
And like, I don't understand, like, what would the benefit for, obviously the people at the top, it's all about money, but somebody, like, how does that benefit anybody? I don't understand it.
Now go to your question. It's benefiting somebody.
Right.
It's not benefiting everybody. How do they get you to close your eyes when you see ICE agents shooting and breaking up families? What gets you? What do you say? What do I say? You ready? That ain't my issue. Or you this one. Ooh, that's sad, but that's Minnesota. Ooh. But you're not getting in your car to ride over to Minnesota to join the protest, are you? Because it ain't affecting you. So how oppression works and stays in place, everybody makes it somebody else's issue until it touches your life or somebody you love. But by the time it touches you, there's nobody left to speak up for you because you didn't do anything when you first saw it coming. So now you got these Republicans. Now you got Republicans. I'm only putting it out for this reason. You have Republican lawmakers who are saying President Trump is problematic. Republicans now, but I can't say anything. I can't do anything. Well, when you started out with a problem and didn't correct it, now you in a mess, and now it's so big you don't know what to do. It's picked up momentum. So most people go along with the momentum of the moment, rather than when they see a problem, speaking up and putting themselves in between the problem and the people it wants to oppress. So does that make sense for you?
Crystal clear.
Okay.
It's also very sad.
Well, what's sad to me is that the church operates the same way when we're supposed to be countercultural. These are deacons and pastors who were in the Klan. These were preachers who went and preached, and then they went and picked a person of color and castrated them and roasted them on fire and had their children on their shoulders right after they walked out of church singing hymns. And their sons and daughters have inherited their properties that they stole from black people through theft and exploitation, and say it wasn't my problem because I didn't own slaves. I'm just benefiting off the slave labor. And we don't think that we should give reparations. And I know this is problematic, and I don't mean to go this deep. I said in a sermon when I was talking about God is in the details, I don't think racism is ever going away because America is racist to its core. But just because it's not going away doesn't mean I don't prepare people to live with the impact of it to protect themselves when it rears its head. I don't fool myself that in my lifetime, in my children's lifetime, Jesus Terry, and my great-grandchildren's lifetime, that we're going to stop being racist. A conversation I've not been able to have, I hope we have it at Candid Conversations at the end of the month. I pastor a Pan-African, multi-ethnic, multiracial, polyethnic denomination. I'm the presiding bishop. I'm for diversity and inclusion. And I'm going to be very transparent in this moment where I find myself. I thought I was delivered from a need to have a black church space because the mother church, the church where I'm the senior pastor, is polycultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic. And this moment that I'm living in under this administration, it's not safe to be in this country without a black church. Let me say it again with my whole PhD.
With your whole chest.
Pastoring a multiracial, multi-ethnic, polycultural church. Under this administration, it is not safe to be in America without a black church space controlled by black people. Let me put it in context for you, Wypij, whose mouth is hanging open because y'all don't have the video.
Yeah.
The only reason why you see black politicians today, black educators today, black owners today, black lawyers today, we could not control politics. We could not control education. We could not control law, government, or the courts. The only thing they gave us that we could control was religion. So we took religion and made it everything we needed to be. It was the community center.
Yes,
it was the political organizing.
Yes,
it had the resource base. That's why people don't understand most political leaders were preachers first. Most leaders in the black, because it was the only space where you could develop and learn, hone your skills, and build grassroots support and coalitions. And we're so foolish to think that we're post-racial. We believe the lie that blacks had gave up on the churches, and so we got rid of the black churches and integrated them all. Now, what do you control? Nothing. And I'm not foolish enough to get so emotionally caught up in the moment. I never was. to lose grip on the reality that it was the black church that made me who I was, that gave me the potential. So you can preach in the black church and have no degree because they see something in you and they'll work with you till you get to where you need to be. You can't get a formal education, but we'll apprentice you and teach you what you need to know. Knowledge is knowledge, yes, whether you got a piece of paper or not. Understanding is understanding, yes, and experience is experience. Right? Let me say again, in case you missed it. I am of the mind, and I'm going to continue to pastor, and you all know this. I have white members here. You on this. What I do for my black members, I'm going to do for my white members. But I'm saying to the black church, I was just in Atlanta. I preached on Sunday at the Dixie Hills Baptist Church. And I said, whatever you do, don't lose the black church. The black church was so powerful that even if you were not a Christian, you went to the black church because that's where you got what you needed to be successful, even if you were not Christian. So I want to broaden this when I talk about the black church. It's more than just a space for people to do religion. It was the center of our black cosmos. Marriage partners, the church, education, nonprofits, self-help groups, they came out and worked in tandem with the black church. Now, we've seen this movie before. Why would you not prepare for the fallout that's coming? And it's just crazy. People say, well, Dr. Turner, Bishop Turner, whichever, in both contexts, I teach the black church as a scholar and I'm a bishop in the black church. They said, well, why would you say that? It's all about unity. I said, God did not call me to be stupid. I said, I don't check my Holy Ghost at the door because you shouting and speaking in tongues. I said, you still human and still falling any old given day. I'm Armenian. You could backslide and go back to your racist ways. So I hope you deliver today and I hope you stay delivered. But just in case you don't, God told me to occupy till he come. He didn't tell me to put pie in the sky and hope. And then Jesus said he joined himself to no man. You know what that means in John 2? He said people are fickle.
Yeah.
So you all for me today, but as soon as I act too black for you, you may cut me off tomorrow. I'm not about to lose my base of power, cut off my resources, because others may throw you away. There's one institution that has never thrown a black person away, and that's called the black church. We got the capacity to forgive like a group I ain't never seen. And to restore like a group I ain't never seen. And the honor, everybody be talking about you, but we'll be loving you. OJ don't even like black people. We was trying to take him back. Free OJ. And he probably did it, but free OJ. We shouting on tables and dancing. Free OJ. He probably did it, though. I'm saying black church has this unparalleled capacity, not just for resilience, but for forgiveness, for compassion. And I said, and I'm going to say it again, that's how transatlantic slavery happened. Black Africans were too nice. Let them in, open the door. Oh, go and show yourself. Bathroom around the way. Is this a whole bank with the door open? Oh, yeah, don't nobody steal around here. Next thing you know, y'all back with the boats and guns and taking us across the Middle Passage. So that's what I would say. Does that help?
Yeah.
My Lord. My Lord. It's interesting you said, to your point about how kind and forgiving and gracious that black people are. And you said every year when you delve into this topic, the most pushback you get is from the black people.
Looking out
for white people.
For the whites who will hear me. True story from the mothers on down. Bishop, yeah, what you saying true. But some of the white people look pink. Some of the white people. And I go, mother. And I always do this very respectful. I said, mother, was it the truth? Well, yeah. Was the Bible? Yeah. But did you have to say all that you said? Well, shouldn't I preach till the sermon is over? Well, I just don't know if they could take it. And I respectfully said, I said, mother, don't this kind of feel familiar? What was the job of the house Negro? Make sure master okay. Master, you good? Boss, we good? Boss, us ate? Boss, us ate? You ain't had a scrap of nothing. And it's all about their comfort, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Your whole life was consumed with them to the detriment of your own self-care. The black mammy was this asexual, fat, dark black woman who, quote unquote, in their minds presented no threat to the white paragon of virtueness, right? And you gave so much to the white family that you took care of it. You had nothing left for your own family. Black families are affected to this day because white women were allowed to be women and black women were never women. They were equal to the men always. A black woman was never a woman in the same way. Now, y'all, we into some stuff now that people don't talk about. I need my woman and scholar friend, Dr. Marcia Clark, to come back to break this down for you. Jacqueline Gate and different people to come to break this down. But here's the idea, right? A black woman worked in the field right beside her husband, like a man. Took the lumps like a man. So what is the male-female relationship when you go back into the black cabin? Where he's been emasculated right in front of your eyes and dehumanized. And though you're his wife, you belong to the master as well, to have you whenever he wants, how he wants, in front of you. You understand the traumas in the black culture. And then while I'm coming back to bring this where I'm really trying to get, it was done in Jesus' name. So we've got sometimes a twisted, perverted theology that says it's biblical to receive oppression if it comes from white folk. And so if a white person said it must be true, but my Bible told me in 1 Thessalonians, test everything. 1 Thessalonians 5:21, and then hold fast to what's true. But what we've done, watch how we've been perverted. Watch how slavery is imprinted on our soul. If a white person said it must be true, you don't have to question it. Because if the white people said it must be honest. But let a black person say something. Oh, that Negro, what are you talking about? He going to get us in trouble. What are you talking about? Oh, he must be trying to make $1 off us. He might be something. But if a white preacher say it, until he's sitting in jail and convicted, you're going to think it's the gospel, honest truth. We've had right now, and I want to call any names, in the charismatic circles, we've had some preachers that have been exposed that I'm aware of. So I watched this. I'm blown away. And I had to say, Justin, when I watched these videos of this particular, the only reason why he got away with that because he was white. How in the world you supposed to be a prophet? You going on Facebook, pulling off people's info and claiming you got a word and you read it. Now, you know in the black church, soon as you give me a prophecy and I see you looking at your phone, you already done. Yeah. We ain't never had no black prophet with a phone looking at stuff to give you the prophecy. And wait a minute, you know why nobody stopped him? One, because there wasn't no black people there. And two, because it seemed normal. If it's white, it must be right. How you prophesying looking off a phone? God talking to me. Let me just check my notes here. No, serious, literally prophesying from the phone going. And then when you're wrong, oh, maybe I'm thinking of another one because it's connected to my sister or my cousin. Wait a minute, here's where I'm going next. And you doing this internationally with the biggest names in the charismatic circle. Wait, it gets worse. When you've been inappropriately gratifying yourself in the nude with staff members, and they never reported you, and if they did, nobody took it seriously. And they still let you come preach at their mega church, even with these reports that you to investigate. And I'm going, and then it clicked, and then the click, and the Holy Ghost said, but he's white. I said, oh.
Yeah. Wow.
Because white is purity, knowledgeable, expertise, and objective. Those are the benefits of whiteness that are ascribed to you that are not given to people of color. You being emotional, so they saying you're not objective. Oh, girl, you crazy, so you're not knowledgeable. Oh, you pulling my leg, so you're a joke. So those are the cultural labels for blackness versus the cultural labels that we ascribe to whiteness. Coming full circle to the comment of the woman whose intention we didn't know, who had the impact of getting the person clear. You're saying assumptions are problematic. Well, assumptions are racialized. The scripts are racialized. And let me tell you this, socialization is not conscious. From the time you're little, you become like the people you associate with. And if everybody in my circle is white and all the values in my circle are white, and we're all middle class, without a word, I'm internalizing those values. Mm-hmm. We can joke about people of color in secret. When you're in public, you don't say those things. And if you break the rules, they look at you to reel you back in. But in private, that's who you really are. The jokes that you tell, the things that you say in private.
You just stunned me for a moment. And it's not that it's new information. It's just like, right. This whole narrative and trope of the black woman, any black woman that's strong and smart and astute, who asserts herself, oh, she angry, she aggressive, she mean. I get characterized that way. And I think about what you just said. What to God as a black woman that I could be in my soft girl era and just be soft and gentle and docile and da-da-da-da-da. But I live in a world where I have to stand up, I have to be strong, I have to be knowledgeable, I have to speak. But it's not seen that way. It's always characterized negatively. But when you talk about black women all the way back to enslavement, though that's not our beginning, but that's a critical part of our history, we always had to fight. We always had to work.
And so people ask us, why are we defensive and emotional? And I speak to your experience because you went to NAS too, so I'm just this piece. I can't fully talk about your experience as a black woman because your burden needs are greater than mine as a black woman. When you've been black in white spaces, every day is a fight.
This is what I'm saying.
And I cannot just be as good as my white colleagues. I have to be 2 times better and not make it look easy while I'm doing it. I have a whole PhD in race, and I'll sit in a room of white pastors and want to challenge my credentials, even though I earned a whole PhD and I'm a published author. And they don't even have a master's degree, and they want to tell me about race. And I'm in the room as the scholar to teach on the subject, but because you're ignorant and you've never heard these things, we can't even get past one on the definitions. Well, racism is not a thing. Don't you think that racism is much better? Would you allow me, with my whole PhD in this subject matter and graduate degree in theology, which I teach for 20 plus years, to set the terms and introduce the topic before you take over my lecture? Yeah, let Dr. Turner speak. He's an international scholar. Let him speak. Because you got an agenda. Because there's a black man in the room telling you God don't love America no more than he loved China. And you're preaching white nationalism and as is Christianity. And he said, well, China, they're socialists. And I said to this pastor, he got mad. I said, wait a minute. Who's more guilty, the Chinese who claim not to know God and sin, or America who claims to know God and sins? Well. I said, oh, now you want to qualify. I said, first you told me let's be biblical. And I asked you to tell me in the Bible where you find capitalism, and you couldn't. Then you changed it and said that the Chinese were godless and we're godly. I said, so you said that you want to be biblical. And then when I showed you capitalism and democracy was not in the Bible, you changed it to make it about we're better than them. I said, you keep moving the target, but I'm coming to you back to your point. When you're in white spaces as a person who is black, you live in the constant battle. There was a conversation from a colleague. They said, well, we talked to William and he felt defensive. No, I wasn't defensive. You're white and I don't trust you. And you just prove I don't trust you because you say one thing to my face, but then when somebody asked you about the conversation, you said he felt defensive. But if you felt that way, why weren't you honest in the moment and say, William, you seem defensive. It's something I'm doing, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what we learned, that you cannot trust white systems because they're designed to keep whites superior to you. Mm-hmm. And I find that there's free information that they'll have that they'll never give you. You got to go research and figure it out and come to the information when they could have helped you and they had the information all the time.
Ugh. To your point about the Black church and Black safe spaces being ever so important in this day and age, this moment that we're in. Because I tell you, working in the secular space that I work in, I feel like I'm going to a battlefield every day.
Austin Channing Brown, and some years ago, being Black in a world made for whiteness, and she worked in a religious, she's an African-American preacher, social organization, I believe, Austin Channing Brown. That book, Being Black in a World Made for Whiteness, she says to Black women in particular, you need a group and a space where you can vent and decompress. That's real. Let me say something that people don't want to talk about. It's exhausting as a Black Ph.D. bishop in white evangelical spaces where you have to keep fixing up what you say. Think about how you say it so it's palatable for white consumption, because they're just so, emotionally vulnerable. Anytime you bring up the issue of race, they're on pins and needles. Grow up. If you the big brother, act like it. I need you to toughen up emotionally. Everything is not going to be easy. I need people, and I'm not talking about not dealing with it, but we need a little more emotional toughness here because it's offensive to me when I'm the target of racism, but I need to make you feel comfortable before we can talk about racism. Can you make that make sense for me? You're not the target. I'm the one that they're attempting, because I'm nobody's victim. I'm the one they're attempting to victimize. And before I can talk about what I went through, I got to make sure you okay so you can be comfortable when you're on team victimization. Whether you want to be on the team or not, you on the team. And really, I'm walking in the room, and instead of you bracing yourself for discomfort to privilege the people who are oppressed, we got to take care of you. And you know, this is why I ruffle some feathers. That's not my job to take care of your own well-being and health. I'm not going to intentionally harm you, but I'm also not going to be responsible for your own self-care that you need to do for yourself. And if you're not able to have this conversation with me, please send a representative who is able with power. Don't just send somebody. Send somebody with the power to make decisions in your absence. Now, if you want to be the one to make the decisions, then grow up so you can hear the conversation we having and then use your power to make decisions. If you can't be there, you ain't going to trick me by sending somebody, so we have to have two conversations. I'm saying this once, and I'm saying to the person with the power to make the decision. You ever notice we used to be in timeshares? I don't do them anymore because it's just a money trap. But in the timeshare, they'll never talk to you without your partner because they don't want you to be able to say, I need to go back and talk to somebody. They want the decision makers in the room before they ever get the presentation, because the likelihood of getting you signed is increased. And when you go back, that's a sign that you ain't going to do nothing. And that's the thing I want us to do, is stop letting people move the goalposts on us and stop letting people change the conversation. That's not the conversation we're having. And I tell people now, they try to talk over me, let me know when you're done. Because I'm going to take my turn. You can talk as long as you want, filibuster. I'm for that life. You want to talk a day? Go ahead and talk a day. I'm going to sit here till you finish. Take notes. But when you're done, I'm going to have equal say and equal time when you're done. Guess what I find most people do? Stop talking, let me get my part in, because they see I'm not going to be moved. Well, you seem emotional. How would you like me to switch up? I know how to code switch. You couldn't hear it. It seemed passionate. Let me change and get my professional voice. Is this better? Would you like me to put my concern in writing? I can do that too. I love documentation. See what I'm doing? Because I've been in white spaces. I know how to code switch. And when I get home, I'm like, girl, you ain't going to believe what they was up in there doing.
Facts. I think one of the things that's most egregious to me when you're in predominantly white spaces and you have Black folks around who could be in leadership and they co-sign the foolishness of the white people against one of their own. It's unconscionable.
So go back to what I'm talking about, and you all forgive me, but I use this phraseology often when I teach on the subject, the house Negro versus the field Negro. Oppression does not stay in place except through the ideology of divide and conquer. How the Europeans balkanized Africa and took over the world, they divided us against our own best interests. What often happens for the promise of the good life, we sell out our own, thinking that it will be better for us. When you compromise who you are so that you can be acceptable to whiteness, you become owned for life, and you can never get the debt off of you. It's sharecropping, politically, emotionally, religiously. You on their field, on their land, and the little joy you get is rented to you. You don't own it. So the joy you have, the accomplishment you have, so long as you are useful to them, you maintain it. The cost is very simple. Sell out your own. We have exceptionalism and tokenism. Only 2 of y'all allowed to make it. So the other 90, you pick which 90 you gonna mess over, but only 2 of y'all making it. And when you get there, we ain't gonna say nothing. You keep your people in their place. And so they're victims of their own success. Because anytime you become successful at the loss of your soul, is it really success? And I tell people, I love everybody. I was at Elam Bible Institute, and I could go to worship, and I experienced Jesus there. Was it my favorite service? No, because it ain't black church. And even that Living Word is bittersweet. I pastor here, but it's not the church I grew up in. It's not the church I envisioned. Where I go to church, there's going to be some sweating, there's going to be some shouting, there's going to be some dancing. And when we start preaching, it's going to be some hooping. Well, I don't pastor that church. And that's the whole leadership issue. I have to pastor the church I have and the people I have, not the church I wish I had. Now, there's still streams of blackness. I always laugh when some of our white constituents be like, wow, Bishop, that was rough today. And I look at myself, I say, you see the words of it, you ain't got no clue. You got about an hour and 45 minutes. If we was doing church, it'd be 3.5. And I'm not talking about where they drag the service on. I'm talking about where the praise is high, the Lord is moving. And when they get through shouting and singing, we still going to stay and hear our sermon because that's what we do. We don't shout, and then fall asleep while the preacher preaching. No, we was in it for the worship. We was in it for the praise. And when the preacher was preaching, we was down for that too. And if he messed around and had a good altar call, that's another hour right there because we all want a personal prophecy. I'm talking about done right. I'm not talking about every Sunday where you dragging on and this one got a spot and this one. You know what I'm talking about, where the anointing was high. Right. Where when they took us to revival service and we had school the next day and at 12 o'clock we still sitting there like, Mom, we leaving yet. She's like, girl, be quiet. The Lord moving. And then the preacher would pray with them crazy prayer. And parents, don't worry. We're going to pray and the Lord going to wake the kids up with strength.
That's what they said.
I'm like, now you can't buy a good revival in Rochester. Let me leave that right there. Let me leave that right there. You could throw a rock and find a revival in Rochester in the 80s, and it'll be good. And the prophet wasn't fake, and he wasn't on YouTube scanning you and quoting words they done looked up. I mean, we came up with real prophetic voices that we wanted to live right because we knew God was showing what you was doing. We had parents who would get off from work because we were skipping school and find us and be on the opposite side of town because the Lord told them to come by that day.
True story.
We went to school when we were supposed to be because you didn't know when they was going to turn up. And you didn't know what the Lord was going to tell them, so we did right. We had a fear of God and a fear of our parents.
As in a respect.
A healthy respect, yes, yes. So I think we're in a moment, and this is where we've been coming this month. I really want to have, and we've always done candid conversations, but we want to have interlocutors, people across the table and diverse. You can hear what you can talk about. We refuse to be black and silent anymore. The church is the church for all nations. It's a house of prayer for all people. And we all bring our cultures, we all bring our experience in a way that glorifies God. And you hear me say this all the time as I get older and I see how culture has been preached into the Bible. Cultural leanings and idiosyncrasies. Even when we talk about racism and slavery, it's not good biblical exegesis. Well, if it exists there, I have the right to talk about the truth of the lies that have been told. So when we talk about this white Jesus that has been foisted on the church, And we know that he was probably middle brown of color, Afro-Asiatic in his features. Where you get a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus? Who is that made after? Oh, the Romans. And we can show you when they went out to World War II, I believe it is, they had an artist to create so the soldiers would be willing to die for something higher. Well, the Jesus had to look like them if they was going to die for them. They couldn't put a brown or black Jesus with a wide nose and thick lips on the picture. So that's why we have this iconic picture of the white Jesus praying. Connected to European warfare for the benefit and consumption of white soldiers so that they would be willing to die for something higher.
Oh, boy.
Who wants to die for a Jesus that don't look like them? And by the way, there does exist, when I teach the black church, there are pictures of Moses with short, kinky hair and Jesus and the apostles with short, kinky hair going all the way back in the Middle East. So there's probably some iconographic evidence that Jesus was not blonde hair, blue eyes with a long nose and thin lips. Well, we don't talk about that. And again, you know, people want to tell me, well, God doesn't have a color, but the historical Jesus did. And I'm only talking about it because you started the conversation. And now when I get my facts and come to the table, you don't want to talk about it no more. It's no more. Too late. You done started the conversation, and I'm going to have my turn.
Started on a lie.
And I'm going to have my turn. Well, how long you going to talk? How much time did they give you? That part. Now, Elder D, that part. Isn't it amazing people want us to hurry up and say what we got to say? Well, if I done lived with the lie for 300 years, I need at least 300 years for my turn with you to be quiet and listen. Now, it's not going to take me that long because truth can get you free quicker than that. But I'm not going to be silenced. And so people are very nervous. I think people are afraid the sins they've done to you, you're going to do to them. So they're afraid. But in the church, we should not be scared. We should not live in fear. I think if you have brothers and sisters that are truly in Christ, their intentions are good, let's have these conversations. And I know we're going to do that at Living Word because I happen to know the pastor.
Thank God for safe spaces.
Amen.
And how safe are we at Living Word? Are we really safe? I know we have a black pastor, but are we safe? I'm not trying to be funny, Elder D. You want to ascribe to people stuff and they ain't been certified. What makes them safe?
I'm talking about, well, let me go back. Let me retract. I'm not even retracting. Let me clarify. Bring clarity to what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm not saying safe spaces as in the whole church is saved. What I'm saying is my tribe,
your tribe,
my circle,
okay,
that's almost a period, is safe.
Okay, now how do we extrapolate and export your circle into larger circles? Because I think the church culture needs to be a safe space.
Agreed.
And I'm only saying because we're having these honest conversations.
Agreed.
What is the measure of when it's safe? And that may be a broader conversation.
It is.
How do we know when it's safe? And what does safety look like?
I think we don't achieve safety until we have these conversations that we avoid.
Willingness to engage.
Yes.
Willingness to sit with the discomfort.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is the thing that kills me when I go to work and I'm very much got the Malcolm and the Martin in me. Depends on the day which one you're going to get. And when I have to have these conversations with my white colleagues and sometimes black as well, what I said to them, this revelation hit me one day when I, quote unquote, was going off. Just as uncomfortable as you are, I too am uncomfortable that I even have to have this conversation. So we understand we're both sitting in discomfort. Yeah. You think you're the only one uncomfortable and I'm fine. I'm not fine. Yeah. We're both sitting in discomfort. Yeah. Yeah. And yet the conversation needs to be had. Yeah. I'm not going to stop talking.
Yeah. And that part, I think, capacity building. But you cannot grow what you won't talk about.
Yes.
But often the responsibility is put on the person who is oppressed to start the conversations.
All the time.
And I tell often white students, white colleagues, they say, "Oh, Dr. Turner, what do I need to do?" I say, "Go do some homework." I say, "You heard me talk. Go look up some books yourself. And then if you come back, I'll let you know which ones are good or that I recommend." Now, There are some people who are farther in the journey, and I know you do this, that we put certain key works in their hands because we know they're ready.
Yeah.
And we say, listen, you done hit a plateau. Let me help you go to the next level. And we put something in their hand. But it's not, I stopped, especially if they're not paying me. I stopped being the pastor of the whole world and feeling the need to educate every ignorant white person or black person that I meet. Now, I do a little more for black people because I owe that community because I'm from that community. That's my paying back the community I come from. But with my white colleagues and friends, I don't feel the need to educate you. Now, if you really want to learn and want to take me to lunch and pay me, okay, here's the resources. And I think you have to walk that balance. But you also, to your point, Austin Channing Brown again, black in the world made for whiteness, you have to protect and guard your own health.
You do.
And you have to make time to check in.
Yeah.
And whiteness, combating it and deal with it can be exhausting.
Tell me about it.
So you have to disengage sometime too.
Right.
Make people responsible for their own learning.
Yeah.
Stop doing the homework for them.
Yeah.
Oh, Bishop, that was a good talk. I want to know so much. There's a library. I'm published. Pull some of my articles, look at the footnotes and references. Any of those books, start with them. Just jump in one. Whatever look good, jump in one. And if you run into anything that don't make sense, let me know. Because if you take enough time to go get the article and look up what I was talking about,
then I know you serious. Come on here.
You're worth investing my very valuable time to have a conversation with you. Now, anybody listening to me who has not read Souls of Black Folk, it's a short book, but Du Bois uses a language that's higher than most PhDs. You're going to need a dictionary, but it's worth the time. It's not a thick book, but there's some words he uses. Oh, yeah. Archaic and above our head, wordsmith. You're going to need a dictionary. Get one.
I love it.
Miseducation of the Negro. Roughly, I think he published it in 1933. I think my dates are all right. What he said about education is still relevant today. When you black and go to a white school, you come out of no benefit to your own people and a benefit to whiteness. Because you've got your culture erased out of you, and now you're trying to be white. Here we are almost 100 years later, and education is still doing what it was doing there. Well, you get an education, but you lose your blackness. You can kind of see why I fight against losing my authentic black self, even though I've been in higher ed. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm in this field of African-American studies, which has probably been an insulator to keep me rooted and grounded in the struggle because of my discipline. If I were just a sociologist or just a theologian, I might be in the same vein as some of my other black colleagues who want to just get away from them people in the hood. But I pastor and I teach African-American studies. I can't get away from my people. Because black scholarship in African-American studies is not knowledge just for the sake of the knowledge. It's what you're going to do to help the community with what you got. That's what we ask in everything we do. How does this benefit the people you serve, the people you live with? How do we change the world, William, with the work you're doing? That's why this article in Numa that came out in 2025 in December, Future Forward Dialogues, that came about because I was teaching at Northeastern Seminary, a group of pastors, about 40 pastors. I was teaching transformational leadership. And I began to say, because I was old enough, I'm a race scholar and a bishop and a pastor for 40 years. And I said, I'm a race scholar. And I opened up, I said, I'm unapologetically black and unapologetically Pentecostal. And they looked. And I began to unpack them. I said, in my work, people accuse me of causing division in the church. And I'm for Christian unity. I just don't want it the way they told me we have to have it. And it was this phrase of diversity and distinctiveness without division that sent me back to the Bible, because I see Acts 6 as a model of how to heal the church when there's racial difference, ethnic difference, and disunity. I think Peter gives a model when he forms the deacons, how we do this in a way that allows people to hold on to their ethno-racial distinctiveness without dividing the church. He puts a whole group of Hellenistic deacons over the whole benevolence ministry, because the rest of the church is run by Hebrews or indigenous Jews in Jews around about Jerusalem, not from the Greek outer regions, right? So you have these two ethnic groups, and when they were taking care of the widows and orphans, the Hebrew Jews was getting everything, and those Hellenistic people wasn't getting nothing. So Peter, when he says, oh, let's deal with this, he says, let me take the oppressed people and put them over the business. And I find it very interesting that people make unity so complicated, but we got biblical models. It ain't got to be that complicated. But you know why we can't see it? When you on top and you got all the money and the resources, you don't need to see it. So one of the things I often say at Living Word and at the college when I teach on any type of oppression, whether ageism, sexism, racism, the people who are suffering have the best perspective on what they need to stop suffering. Listen to them. So one thing you're not going to do is come to Living Word and tell us what we need to do. You can partner with us, but you can't be over us. We've been dominated once. We don't do that well.
Bishop, you was on such a roll. I didn't want to tell you. You done talked through my 5-minute mark. You talked through the 5-minute mark.
It was good.
Hallelujah.
So go ahead and
land the plane.
Look, put the period on the sentence.
The period on the sentence. We're in a place. And here we come back to, let's do it this way. This is going to be a theme on our podcast. Grown-up relationships and adult conversations. It's called After the Sermon and Other Candid Conversations. This was more on the second side now, finally. Y'all did a lot of the After the Sermon.
Right.
This now, for those of you who wonder what candid conversations look like, here's a little sample of what you can expect.
This is what it is.
It is.
And we make no apologies.
No.
This is what we're here for.
But we love you.
Oh, yeah. And stay around. Stick around. We'll see you on the other side. Peace, everybody.
Peace.